It's common for me to hear that dual carriageways have 2 lanes and motorways have 3 or more lanes. Correct? Well, no. A motorway is a road with motorway status, and how many lanes are in each carriageway does not determine whether or not that road gets motorway status. Before I explain what a motorway is, firstly I need to explain what a dual carriageway is. Dual means 2. But carriageway does not mean lane, and I think that's where some people can get this wrong. This road is a single carriageway. It can be a one-way road, in which case cars are travelling in the same direction, or it could be a 2-way road in which cars are travelling in opposite directions. In Great Britain, if they are travelling in opposing directions, they will be passing on the left. This road is a dual carriageway. We have one carriageway on the left travelling in one direction and another carriageway on the right travelling in the other direction, and each carriageway is separated by a central reservation. This can be a barrier, a curb, or just a piece of grass. This is what makes it 2 carriageways or a dual carriageway. How many lanes are in each carriageway is not relevant. There can be 1 lane in each carriageway, or there can be many lanes in each carriageway. There is no limit to how many lanes can be in each carriageway, but there are 2 carriageways here and therefore it's a dual carriageway. So what are the design differences then between a motorway and a normal A road with a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit? Well, there are many differences, and I think you need to be a road designer to know all of the differences, because there is a lot of information and I think it needs to be your job to know all that information. But I know some of the key differences. One is not actually it needing to be a dual carriageway. Yes, the vast majority of motorways are dual carriageways, but this one in Aston, Birmingham, isn't. It's a motorway, the A38M, but it's not a dual carriageway. It's a road that operates a tidal flow system. I'll leave a link to a video I did all about it in the top right hand corner of your screen. A key difference between motorways and 70-mile-per-hour A roads are junctions. When you're entering a motorway, you usually have plenty of time to get up to the speed of the main road and merge safely, and sometimes you even get your own lane as you merge. Sometimes you get this on 70-mile-per-hour A roads, but you're much more likely to see shorter slip roads or even compact junctions where there's very little time to get up to the speed of the main road. You can see traffic lights and you may even see houses at the side of the road. Motorways have a hard shoulder, which is essentially an extra lane on the side of the carriageway. This makes the carriageway wider, and therefore it's one of the reasons why motorways cost more to build. However, that lane is not used as a lane. The hard shoulder is for emergency use only. That makes motorways safer because there's somewhere for a car to go if there is an emergency. However, some motorways used to have a hard shoulder, and that kind of makes a mockery out of building a road to motorway specifications. Motorways don't have lay-bys at the side of the road, somewhere to park. However, on 70-mile-per-hour A roads, it's common to see a lay-by and a parking sign where you can pull over if you need to. However, on motorways, you can only pull over in an emergency. There are lay-bys at the side of the road on some motorways, but these lay-bys are for emergency use only. Motorways have different standards for signs. You get directional signs earlier than you would do on a 70-mile-per-hour A road, meaning you have more warning. And there are usually far fewer entrances and exits onto and off of a motorway than there would be on a 70-mile-per-hour A road. This is to try and make the motorway safer, because if less vehicles are entering and leaving, there is less likely for there to be disruption. Therefore, it's unlikely you're going to use a motorway for a quick hop on and hop off, because the distances between the exits are usually significant. If you drive a car, you may find it hard to tell the difference between driving on an A road with a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit and a motorway with a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit. You're going to drive on both roads in pretty much the same way. So what's the big deal? Well, depends which vehicle you're driving. If you're driving a different kind of vehicle, the difference may be significant. You may have a different speed limit and you may not even be allowed on the motorway at all. This is actually why we have this sign on dual carriageways instead of it just saying 70 miles an hour, because different vehicles have different speed limits on different classes of road, and you need to know what the speed limit is for your class of vehicle on the class of road that you're driving on. Rule 124 in the highway code explains. Here are a couple of examples. It does get quite complicated when you start talking about different vehicle types, which is why I'm reading directly from Rule 124 as I advise you do. Let's take motorhomes or motor caravans exceeding 3.05 tons maximum unladen weight. 60 miles an hour on a dual carriageway, but 70 miles an hour on a motorway. Let's look at goods vehicles exceeding 7.5 tons maximum laden weight in England and Wales. Well, it's 60 on both dual carriageways and motorways. It never used to be. It used to be 50 on a dual carriageway and 60 on a motorway, but that recently changed. However, in Scotland, it didn't change. In Scotland, it's still 50 on a dual carriageway and 60 on a motorway. So not only do you need to know what the speed limit is for your type of vehicle on the class of road that you're driving on, but you've also got to consider where you're driving within Great Britain. Rule 253 of the Highway Code states which vehicles are not allowed on motorways. I have it here, I'll read it out to you. It says, motorways must not be used by, to be fair, the first one's not a vehicle. Pedestrians are not allowed on motorways. It goes on. Holders of provisional motorcycle licenses, riders of motorcycles under 50cc in brackets 4 kilowatts, cyclists, horse riders, certain slow moving vehicles and those carrying oversized loads except by special permission, agricultural vehicles and powered wheelchairs / powered mobility scooters. All of those aren't allowed on motorways. Up until recently, provisional driving licence holders learning to drive a car were not allowed on motorways. Period. Not at all. Fortunately, the rules changed. Now they are allowed on motorways as long as they are with an approved driving instructor in a dual controlled car. So they still can't go on motorways when they're being supervised by a friend or family member, but they can with an approved driving instructor in a dual controlled car. Now I think this is a good thing because motorways generally are an easier introduction into 70 mile an hour roads because generally they're safer and easier to use with longer slip roads. This gives driving instructors more options to help teach learners slip roads. Depending on where the driving instructor is in their area, depends on what roads are going to be available to them. And if there's a motorway nearby with an easy slip road, but there's also an A road nearby with a challenging slip road, which one do you think the driving instructor is going to want to try and help the learner with first? Before, they weren't allowed on the motorway, but now they are. So driving instructors have more options to choose a road which is more suitable for their learner. Another difference between motorways and dual carriageways is who can use the rightmost lane of a motorway when there are 3 or more lanes. Rule 265 of the Highway Code states this. It says the right lane of a motorway with 3 or more lanes must not be used except in prescribed circumstances if you are driving. And there's a list. I recommend you look at the list if you're interested, but I'll give you 2. Any vehicle drawing a trailer and a goods vehicle with a maximum laden weight exceeding 7.5 tons. So how do you know if you're driving on a motorway and motorway rules apply? Well, it's easy. Usually the name of a motorway begins with an M for motorway, like M25 or M6. Sometimes it can end with an M in brackets, like A38M in brackets or A1M in brackets. But the easiest way to know are blue directional signs. If the directional signs are blue, then you know you are on a motorway and motorway rules apply. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car, then Collingwood are there for you, because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy. And that takes away a big stress from the owner of that car that you're using to practice your driving in. Just make sure you don't go on the motorway if you are doing this. Via the link at the moment, there's up to 35% off and a £20 gift card. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend checking out the link to confused.com, because you fill out one quote form and get loads of quotes back from many insurers to compare who's cheapest. And you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like without having to do the whole quote again. You can just do one quote and then change the car and compare how much it costs to insure different cars. That's useful if you're shopping around for different cars and want to know how much it costs to insure them. Using links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.